In this exercise, we'll learn how to prepare a set of panels for production. We'll start with this pre-existing set of panels, and the first thing we'll do is use the Panel Arrange tool to space these panels out horizontally. Let's go to the options, and here we'll specify a spacing value. For this example, we'll use a panel spacing of 1 meter. Now we'll select all of our panels and run the tool. We now have our same panels but spaced out horizontally, which will make them easier to work with. Before we move on to the next step, we'll make a copy of this set of panels, and throughout this exercise we'll continue to copy the panels after each section so that by the end we'll be able to look back on our progress step by step. Now we're going to compensate the panels, which means we'll deliberately shrink the panels so that when they are stretched to their true size, they are pre-stressed. If we don't do this, then the fabric will be loose when it's installed. The amount of compensation required depends on the fabric and the pre-stress required. Let's go to the options under the Compensate Panels tool. For this example, we're going to specify a 3% weft and a 3% warp with a simple shrink. Select all of the panels and run the tool. When we compare the new panels in black to the old panels in red, we can clearly see how the new panels have shrunk. The next thing we'll do is add a seam allowance. Let's go to the options under the Seam Panels tool. Usually, we would specify different seams on different edges, but to keep things simple here, we'll just specify a normal seam with a width of 0.1 on all edges. We'll also specify guidelines to show where the next panel attaches, as well as 17 lineup marks on the left and right edges, which will help in panel assembly. We'll leave the other settings as they are, click OK, select our panels, and run the tool. When we zoom in, we can see the new seam, along with the 17 lineup marks on the left and right edges. Now we'll move on to the stamping section. We'll make a copy of our panels, and then we'll go into the stamping options, found right here, and we'll elect the stamped panels according to the panel ID number, which is the same number that up to now has been in the middle of each panel for reference purposes. Our current set of panels goes from 17 to 24. We'll also include a warp line, which reminds us which way the fabric goes, and we'll specify a stamp length of 1 meter. Click OK, select the panels, and run the tool. Let's delete our old panels and look at the new ones. On each panel we now have a warp line and a panel ID number in the bottom seam. Now we'll move on to panel output. Let's make another copy of our panels and then go into the output options, which are found right here. If the panel is going to an automated cutter, we'll use the polyline output option. The panel has to be split into different layers, such as C for cut, A for annotation, etc. You can customize the terms used to describe the layers in order to suit the specific requirements of the machine you're using. Let's go ahead and select our panels and run the tool. Here I've specified different colors for each layer in order to distinguish them. So now all of our different markings and labels are on a separate color marked layer. If the panel is not going to an automated cutter, but is instead going to be hand cut, then we output the panel coordinates. Let's return to the output options. And this time, instead of outputting polylines, let's select to output the XY coordinates. Click OK, and let's select just 1 or 2 panels to demonstrate, and run the tool. Now we have all of the individual coordinates of the panel, which can be used to cut the panel by hand. Another more basic output option is the skeleton drawing. Let's return to the options. This time select Skeleton, and on these other panels, let's try that. This shows the main dimensions and the amount of curvature on each edge. While it can be used for production, it can also be helpful when double-checking the panels. It's important to realize that once the panels have been converted for output, they can no longer be used in panel for any further operations. We're now finished with our exercise, and we've learned how to output panels for production. If we zoom out, we can review each stage of our progress.